to Vasquez. Freshman Queen who's driving, floats it. And here comes the fans on the floor with 2 seconds. Here it goes for the win.
What is up, Terps fans? Welcome back into another Fear the Podcast. I'm Matt Moderno, pleased to be joined by Colby Giacubeno, our recruiting guru, the guy who knows all these guys in the area. Colby, this is a perfect time of year, I think, to be doing another one of these. Just visit season is starting up here. So thanks for coming in, and how's it going?
No doubt. Thanks for having me, Matt. Appreciate you working with my schedule here. Yes. I don't think there's any better time. These big visits, are starting up around the country this weekend, but for Maryland in particular, next weekend's going to get interesting. And we're going to start seeing some activity here. So the class will start taking some form. And then, as we see some 27s and 28s make their way to campus just for unofficials, kind of get an idea of maybe who they're going to start really prioritizing in those classes. But it's going to be a fun next 4 to 5 weeks.
If you're listening to this and you like Maryland basketball more than Maryland football, I would say go still support the football team, because these recruits will be, in the arena. They want to actually see a football game and stuff. A lot of times we're all there. So the turnout there will help. If you're interested in football, definitely go check out IMS Radio. Larry, Paul, Jeff did a really good job talking through the roster and with linebacker Daniel Wingate. So great episode. And we've got a conversation coming up later this week on this pod with former Maryland guard Eric Hayes. So check back in for that on Sunday. Probably, if you're watching this on YouTube, please click the like button for us. Always appreciate that stuff too. Helps other Terps fans find the episode. So let's just start, Colby, with maybe some listener questions from the IMS board. We've got Tone88 wants to know, over under, do we get 5 recruits? And I'm assuming that's for the 2026 class. I'm assuming under personally, just because they didn't take near that many this year, but they will have some holes in this roster to fill next season too.
Yeah, they will. I would say under on that question, just simply because there's just not going to be that many programs in general taking 5 recruits anymore. I mean, unless you do have a blue blood program that again, like say a Kentucky that wants to continue to invest in these, high school classes. Mm-hmm. But even with that, it's no secret that the 26 class in particular, a little bit more, of a weaker national class. So I don't even see that being the case somewhere, unless, again, a blue blood just knows they're going to lose everybody on their roster and thinks that, 5 stars can suffice and fill those voids. But with Maryland in particular, man, I mean, I think, going forward, the theme will be, look, let's really, find 2 or 3 guys that fit that what we do. Mm-hmm. Maybe one of those guys will be more of a developmental piece. Maybe one guy we hope he can come in and be a big part of the rotation right away. And one guy like we have really high hopes for being in the back end of the rotation, but could work his way up. Mm-hmm. But I mean, if they see another guy or 2 that fits their system and that can come in and help right away, great. I just think with the way that Buzz Williams runs his team, holds his culture, like you need mature, high character guys. And there are some that they are recruiting in 26 that I think fit that mold. However, with the amount of roster overturn that is expected just with every team now, after every season, you can only really assume that there'll be a heavy portal team, getting some mature upperclassmen guys, proven guys, and just understand how to get through the grind, both physically and mentally.
Yeah, it's a great point. You mentioned the strength of the overall 2026 class there. I think that'll have a lot to do with it for Power 5 teams, because if I'm a top 10 recruit in 2026, I'm going to see what the guys in 2025 got paid and want the same amount of money, whereas that program may only value me like a top 30 guy. So it's a tough thing to navigate for these coaches of how to allocate resources. So all that money going to 5 unproven players, and unless, like you said, Colby, one of them's a redshirt developmental guy, or is it a Nick Blake or somebody that's kind of willing to come in and isn't looking to, cash a big check or something like that. So I think, those days are probably behind us of huge recruiting classes.
Yeah.
Fan of Terps asked, why the lack of interest in Anthony Brown and Chase Foster?
I don't know if there's necessarily a lack of interest in Anthony Brown in particular. Obviously he's got his visit early October. There are some teams to watch with Ant. And he's still getting offers as we speak. So I'm not sure if he'll be extending his official visit tour, if you will, a little bit later than what it's already scheduled for. So his last visit is at Mississippi State, November 7th. Mississippi State's been on him probably from an aggression standpoint most out of any team. But I think something with Ant, it might extend maybe into December and January. Not that this is like from Ant himself or anybody in his circle, but you look at some of the visits that he has scheduled, whether it be Villanova, Texas Tech, and then there's the last two are Oklahoma State, Mississippi State. But Villanova in particular, he might take an approach of like, hey, let me sit back and watch how Caden Lewis does with this Villanova staff, who obviously was at Maryland.
Chris Jeffrey's there, who he knows too, I'm sure.
Yeah, sure. So but let's see how much freedom they give a Caden. People have opinions on, what a Caden ceiling is. If he's just completely kills it this year, is he a possible one and done? Who knows? But nevertheless, Ant will get a good idea of how, much of a leash that a Caden is given and whether that fits him and his developmental outlook long term. But I just think Ant has a lot of different things going on with different programs that are in the mix. However, it's not like, Maryland's just going to bring him in for a visit just for the sake of it. They're going to try to bring him in and sell him on what they're doing and why he fits them so well. I think the 2 point guards that they're in particular really looking at are him and Trey Beamer, which, Trey will be on campus here in mid-September. So we'll see how that goes. But and then in terms of Chase Foster, I just think that they have some other guys that they were really prioritizing in that sense. Also, I think that, maybe they think that, this upcoming portal cycle, which again, I know the season hasn't even started yet, but they can get a big that fits Buzz's system now and has more of an impact than maybe Chase would. Not to say that like Buzz's 4 and 5s are not versatile, because they certainly are. But Chase is definitely seeming to take more of a developmental approach as being a more perimeter oriented type of skilled forward, rather than, say like a Pharrell Payne, who is just
you need a dirty work guy if you're going to be playing for Buzz.
Throw it up. Let me go tear this rim off. Let me go protect it, rebound it in bulk, do all this stuff, like where, whoever does get Chase is going to get a really good long-term piece. I'm just not sure that, it's going to fit what Maryland does. And I think the fan base has to be okay with that, because whereas, whether it was the past couple coaching staffs, there weren't really a set culture and a set system and all this whatnot. You go back to Shaka Smart's VCU teams, or even his Marquette teams now. When they get a kid, oh, okay, that kid fits that system.
Our kind of guy, right?
Yes. And I think that's what Maryland fans need to be patient with, especially with Buzz Williams, and as he's molding his culture and these classes. We're going to be involved with local guys, but they have to fit what we do here and what we really prioritize in order to be successful. We don't want to bring a local guy in knowing he doesn't fit what we do, doesn't work out, then it just makes everything look bad. You know what I mean? So I think Chase would be a better fit elsewhere. And I mean, again, the staff hasn't told me this, but maybe the staff, that's their mindset as well. But they're still in on Ant. Chase is going to take his visits elsewhere. I know Oklahoma State's in for him. I know Villanova, they're going to get a visit out of him too. So we'll see where that plays out. But definitely still interested in Ant.
Not to shoot astray in his direction years after the fact, but I did feel sometimes with Mark Turgeon where they would go after maybe the highest numbered recruit they thought they could get, unless does this guy fit exactly the way they want to play? And then there were often times where guys would come in and they maybe used them in ways that didn't maximize their skill set. I think you nailed it with Buzz seemingly this is my kind of guy. I don't really care so much about the number. Does he fill this particular role and way we want to play and approach to the game? So I think that's refreshing, honestly. Let's see. JD Benzer wants to know, other than obviously Baba, who is the can't miss recruit who we have a real chance with in either 26 or 27?
I'll kind of give, I guess, names for both. I would say, if I had to guess, again, other than Baba, it would be like, Junior County is their top target. Reminds me a ton of Darius Adams, who is current freshman, and you would think would be there next year. And depending on what the point guard spot looks like, again, we have no idea, but these two could play alongside each other and complement each other just because of the balance both of them bring. I think with Junior, man, like, you could put him anywhere and he'll find a way. It really confirmed to me too, because he's more, sometimes he comes off as more of like a guy who thrives under structure. So I was really interested to see how he kind of played in some of these elite camps, whether it be NBA Top 100 or others that, he was around. And every time he just, it might have took him a game or two to kind of like feel it out. But then eventually it was his normal 11, 5, and 4, just steady. He can play on or off the ball. He's gonna be really effective off the catch with quick decisions. The way that he scores is very translatable. He's gonna get after it defensively. Like, he fits that mold. And I know, he is if not one of the top, target for them in 26. It's not going to be easy whatsoever. He's I would say, like, a program like Purdue, like he fits a Purdue system as well. Like, you could easily see him going in there and
playing day one and doing 11, 5, and 4. Like,
but like, other schools that he's looking at, Indiana, and then he's going to go visit UConn, and he's going to visit Arizona. So, like, big hitters in there that, again, a player like Junior is going to fit in and be really attractive for those schools. And, needless to say, connecting the easy dots is like, Buzz, I don't want to say stole Darius away from UConn after he decommitted. But I mean, Hurley is probably looking at that a little bit and be like, all right,
get my leg back here.
Yeah, Maryland's involved with somebody, and if we really want them, they're not getting them. So, just a competitor in them. So I would say for specifically the 26 class, it would be Junior County at this point. Again, like, other than Baba is the big local one. He's going to be tough to get, though, I think, as well. And they will try to wow him on his visit. I don't think by any means, like, the door is completely shut with him. I think they absolutely have a shot. They just need to do a really good job of presenting that. And then for, the 27 class, obviously Obinna Ekezie is the name. That might be an uphill battle again with some blue bloods.
Now, I was watching clips of him the other night, Colby, just like full, like, actual game. He's really good. That is a guy that seems like he would actually be like a perfect fit for a Buzz Williams too.
Yeah. I mean, everything that he does, and like, he's just scratching the surface of who he's going to become. He was really impressive at NBA Top 100, where, again, it's not a setting that, like, really allows bigs to thrive in, just because the guards are going to get the ball. It's freedom of everything. So, but I bring that up because he was going against Afaron Diani, who's one of the best bigs, if not the best big in this class at 26. And I thought Diani was just going to abuse him, and that was not the case. Obinna had his moments, and it was even more impressive when he would step out and knock down some mid-rangers or mid-range shots and get a block or two, and just, again, scratching the surface, highest ceiling, going to be a tough get. But I don't know, man. I just feel like with where we sit here in this climate that we're in, which is a very confusing climate that everybody is still trying to figure out here. Buzz has a pretty good track record once he gets officials on, and like, that goes with the transfer portal too. I mean, we saw it even with guys who he didn't have a relationship with prior. When he gets them on official visits, and if he really wants them, that changes a lot of prospects' minds. And I think that we're really going to find that out here in the next month, obviously, with all these guys coming on. But he has a tendency to make these guys feel wanted, and that it's more than basketball and what can I do for you long term as a human. So for 27, I would definitely say that. And the other kid that like I would say fits best in their system for what they want as a big, like if they see that they're kind of like letting go of the rope on Obinna when all these other blue bloods are trying to knock down his door, would be Dawson Batee. Saw him this summer down at Richmond while, Maryland had some staff there watching him. Just a really skilled big man. Checks all the boxes in terms of what you would want with a Buzz Williams guy in terms of high character, high motor, competitive, prideful, all that stuff. So, we'll see how it picks up with them. But I know Dawson, he told me back in the summer that he definitely wants to get on campus at Maryland this fall just to get a feel for how this is. Because I think he started getting a relationship with them at Texas A&M. Now he wants to carry on through their route at Maryland.
Dawson Batee, son of Tony Batee, for any NBA fans there, played a dozen years in the league. So obviously a guy that's got the pedigree, probably knows how to play the game pretty well, learned it from a former NBA player too. So that's definitely intriguing. The next question is from R. Balto too. Do we have a real chance with Baba? I mean, I think you kind of already answered that, Colby, but it will be on site on the 13th this month, correct?
Yep. And again, I think that, yes, there is a chance. It's going to be tough. And I don't really have a great feel in terms of how long that they'll extend this recruitment per se. But I do know that, other teams, two teams that come to mind for me in terms of to watch with Baba. And again, this could change overnight, as we know. But Duke and Kansas are ones that I would really watch out for. He's going to be going to Virginia Tech next week. Then he comes to Maryland that following week. We'll see how the rest of his visit schedule will play out. But I would say if, especially, again, he's another evaluator of how Kansas does with Darren Peterson, right? So the idea is to go somewhere and thrive, potentially be a one and done, get to the NBA. I know, there's a lot of things that are between people around him that are saying, hey, being a one and done is not a priority. And in a sense, I understand that. And I'm glad that they're taking that approach, but you're a top 10 prospect in the country, former number one of the other class.
It's on your radar at the very least.
Yeah. Yes. You really don't have a choice but for it to be on your radar. So we will see who starts pressing him as the process goes on. But I do know that, if he I'll say this, Matt, the other wrinkle with Baba is there was a bunch of chatter, of course, of is he going to leave Blake or not? Is he going to go down to a powerhouse prep program?
Sure.
He didn't. And whether or not it's smart to read into that, I just feel if you have that type of opportunity and you want to get away from home and you wanted you jump at that, and they didn't. So we'll see.
Yeah, I love hearing that as a fan of I want to be able to closely go watch some good public school ball. That's cool. I was wondering if Tennessee would try to make a really strong push there. They've got Nate Ament this year, similar build and style of play, and obviously the Durant ties there with Durant's former college head coach Rick Barnes down in Tennessee too. So
yeah, I mean that's a good one if they do decide to move in and press on him. I just, and again, we'll see how these other classes begin to shape. But I do know that, again, from what I've gathered, Duke and Kansas are ones that to really watch and see how much they do end up prioritizing. But from a strategic standpoint, if Nate goes to Tennessee and kills it, why not look into that more?
Yeah. Hard to turn down Duke and Kansas if they give you a phone call. I mean, that's
for sure.
That's pretty appealing. Moist Wanted wants to know who are some of the more realistic DMV targets, and I think we're going to hit on a lot of those names here as we go. So I might just sort of tweak his question a little bit, Colby. This is kind of a down class here overall. I would say 26 compared to even maybe the last 2 years. So that also kind of goes back to that first question of how many recruits we get. these guys seem very interested in not just getting a local recruit for the sake of getting a local recruit. So I wondered if you kind of talk about that aspect a little bit of like, they don't want to force it just because of guys from the DMV.
Right. I mean, it's just not a smart thing to do. I know that they want to recruit locally, and if a guy makes sense, of course they're going to. And I'll get to one of those guys here in a second. But it's just not good business for anybody to say, hey, like player X is the biggest one in our market. You know, as the hometown team, we do have to go after him. Like a lot of these programs, that's their approach with things. But like, I would say, you know, again, if you're a Maryland fan, it makes everything a lot more clean that like, hey, this guy has to fit the structure of a Buzz Williams culture.
Yep.
And whereas, as we said, the past couple of coaching staffs, they took the approach of like, hey, this is the guy in our area. What do we have to do to get him?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't think like since in my time, you know, really covering this stuff closely, I would say maybe like the biggest outrage or whatnot, of course, was Cam Whitmore.
Yeah.
That was one of them. And it was just like, I don't know if they really ever have a chance.
Mm-hmm.
They could have. They didn't play their cards right. But it was just like, okay, but even if he does get here, how does that guarantee him to get where he needs to go?
Exactly.
There's a blueprint with this staff. There is a certain type of character kid who, again, I think will be even further. That will even further the fan base to really get behind the team because, again, like, you know, these kids that are coming on the floor are high character kids and just want what's best for the team. It's not even in this environment that we are living in with just playing for a different school every year. Like Buzz doesn't prioritize that. He invests in the person, not as much as, you know, on the court stuff. Now the guys that he is getting are high character on the court as well.
Yeah.
But you know, you're picking up what I'm putting down, Matt. Like they're not just going to cast a wide net over the local kids just to do it. There's no reason to reach and maybe talk yourself into, hey, you know, this kid has a chance, because now they can have the approach of like, hey, well, if he goes to a George Mason or a George Washington, let's let him develop a year or two, and then we'll take him.
Mm-hmm.
But in the local class, man, like to kind of circle around, you know, obviously they came in, they kind of felt the scene with Smitty at PVI. There's just a lot of other, you know, it's late. It's very late. So you can't fault him for that. Latrell Allman is another name that always comes up, which I think he's a prototypical Buzz Williams forward who would just really, really do impact in the Big Ten as a
top 50 guy, right? Like, this is a pretty big time dude.
Yeah, really skilled over the past years, really expanded his game and really, you know, made something out of his jump shot. But like he, throughout his first 3 years of high school, prided himself on just being a big, imposing paint presence and catching in the mid post and take the rim off, and high energy, high motor type guy. Okay. Now he's got a long list for him. I believe he's going to be at Kansas this weekend, if I'm not mistaken. But he's got plenty of others that he'll go and see. I do think that Maryland does stand a pretty good chance with him, though, especially when they get him on campus. But we'll wait and see for that. Caden Samuels, I think, you know, while a lot of people say like how do you not recruit a kid like that? I think he needs to fit in a certain system and style that's going to allow him a lot of freedom to let that thing go. Yeah. And while, you know, Buzz's teams like to get up and down, they like to shoot their threes, it's all got to be for a purpose and within the flow and, you know, whatnot. So I think with Caden, I know, you know, there's been some schools hinting around with him. I think if I had to bet today, I would say it's going to be between Georgetown and NC State for him. That's just me. But and then you keep going down the list of you know, local guys. We already touched on Chase Foster, already got Anthony Brown. I think after that, man, like you know, there's one more name really that comes to mind, and then there's a little bit of a I don't want to say a drop off, but not many surefire guys that like, hey, this guy will fit. Jalyn Collingwood, which is the guy who obviously has been talked about on the message boards. I wrote about him earlier this week. Maryland's definitely ramping up their efforts with him and making him feel prioritized. I think if there is a local guy that I would say, honestly, man, like maybe even over Ant Brown in terms of how much they have that need at that position and they feel like Jalyn can fill that need. It's got to be him. And I think he has that style of play, style of toughness, versatility that Maryland and Buzz Williams will thrive with moving forward here. Still hasn't locked down an official visit date with Maryland. But, if you guys had read my article earlier in the week, that could be a thing where he, just visits during the week since he's 15 minutes away.
That is really, that's a nice perk of just like, hey, come on out for the night, after school or whatever. Like,
it is. And I think it could easily be formed in a way that it's a negative thing though, too, because it's kind of like, hey, we're just going to go up there and check things out, like type deal. Yeah. Whereas, when he goes to, I think if I had to choose 3 schools for him, this is just based off me, I want to make that clear, is Maryland, Ohio State, and Michigan State. Okay. I think it's going to be those 3 teams. But again, he could go down to Texas Tech. He could go down to Vanderbilt and have these big presentations and this entire weekend dedicated to him and get one over. Ask Cam Ward, ask Jordan Scott. Michigan State's coming in here with a lot of confidence right now.
I was just going to say, Colby, I need you to do me a favor. You recognize all their assistants. When you see them in the gym, you got to run them out of there for us. Like, I can't keep losing to Tom Izzo's dusty old ass with all the wings.
And it's scary because Jalyn fits that mold as a Michigan State wing. Like, there's no doubt about it. I know Ohio State's doing their due diligence as well. It's going to be interesting to see how he kind of responds to their attention. But I think all 3, when I was talking to Jalyn, we were going through the teams and I was just said, look, man, I don't think you go wrong with any of those 3 in terms of playing style, really. But all in all, I think he would really thrive under Buzz. And I think Maryland will, give him, whenever they do get him on campus officially, I have no reason to really doubt their efforts as of this point. So we'll see. It's a lot of kids want to get away for college until it's time to get away. And then, reality kind of sets in, especially if it's a close family dynamic. Cam Ward and Jordan Scott were definitely unique in terms of situations because high character families through and through will be there. We'll be there for home games. We'll fly. We don't care, so on and so forth. But we'll see how that works when the dust settles. I think Jalyn Collingwood is the biggest local target right now. And as they go through these next few classes, they will filter out who fits their culture and their style and go and react accordingly.
I don't know if I say this every time we do a podcast. If I even mention a name that someone's like, hey, this guy's a 7th grader, him before I do. I don't know if this is your sweet spot though, but EK Terp is asking, are there any international players that the Terps are getting in on upcoming? Any insight there at all, Colby?
Not as much. And just because the international space obviously is still, a feeling out period, there are a lot of I feel like the international stuff happens very quickly because
and late it seems like, right? Like it's
and a lot of these, a lot of these players are either playing in pro leagues, so they already have their agents. Their agents are just, whether they're over here or in Europe, keep things very close to the vest. They want to do quick business. What do we got? Boom, let's get it done. Look a few weeks like at UConn, they go and rattle off like 2 or 3 of them, and it's like, not to say that everything should be made public because that's not it, but like covering international recruiting, there's not much of that right now. And there's a reason. Will it get to the point of recruitment like we cover here? Maybe. But at this point, it's, hey, this is my international prospect. I need a good spot for him. We believe your spot is the best. Let's
shop him around the people you maybe have a connection with, but it's not the same as like we've built this relationship over 4 or 5 years with a guy. Like it's,
Yep. So it's very precise. But no, to answer that question, no, I think maybe throughout the next recruiting cycle, maybe you start to see a theme with the international guys that they either go back and forth on or they get. But it'll just be a wait and see thing because I think that international market is so fluid at the moment that like there is no like, oh, he's leading for so-and-so. It's like, yeah, we're going to choose between one school or two, this school's meeting with his business wise, done. No lead up, no visits, all that stuff. Like there isn't any of that. They're a pro. They're professional overseas. So they'll come and live in a nice dorm over here and then try to get to the NBA. So it's not that.
Yeah,
not
your 1 year on campus is really 3 months on campus or whatever for those
right.
guys. And yeah, the Guillermo Del Pino thing happened like almost out of nowhere. It seemed like
so
that's unexpected.
And I mean, again, like they probably did, it's not like they just call somebody up and get a deal done. There's a ton of legwork that's needed for that, but it's just not made public, and it's not and of course they don't want to make a big fuss about it or buzz about it because they don't want to, they don't want other teams jumping in and making things messy in those negotiations. I mean, they don't have a choice here with the American recruitment or the transfer portal or anything like that, but it's just a market that hasn't been tapped into yet. And I'm sure at some point it will, but just not quite yet.
Yeah. It's interesting to see how those things definitely develop. We'll follow it. If we hear anything, we'll let you guys know on a future pod.
There you go.
Wheaton Terp says, from casually following basketball recruiting, it appears Buzz is targeting several top 150-ish high school recruits. Do you think these guys are just very underrated in their rankings? How many of these types of recruits do you think Buzz will try to sign? How many offers do you think they will hold in reserve for more blue chip prospects? I feel like we've talked about pieces of each of these, but just on that, like, you've mentioned it already a couple times, but like he cares more about fit and cultural fit than this number. As far as like how to build out the class, I think you mentioned probably one higher profile guy who can come in right away, maybe somebody end rotation, and then maybe more a developmental guy. Like that seems like the blueprint from what we're hearing about, even with this kind of class too, in terms of trying a couple big names, then guy around 50, and then maybe a guy in the 150s kind of deal.
Yeah, I mean, I think, just with where we are, I think college programs, and hence why, they're starting to, colleges are starting to hire GMs, and who knows, maybe down the road there will be small scouting teams within these college programs and do that, because I think they need to operate more of like an NBA organization in the sense of, hey, like let's really target some guys, like especially again, we've said this, but the 26 class, like, there are people that say, again, Tyron Stokes, number one, with some space in between for number two. You could see Jordan Smith. There's arguments from 2 to, as long as you want to go, 2 to 13, 2 to 15 on guys that you could make an argument for of like, hey, well, Jason Crow might be an immediate impact at the college level as a scorer, but Cam Williams might have the highest ceiling out of anybody in the top 15. Like, so do we put him at 2? It's a tough job, man. Like there's not going to be a perfect answer, especially for a class like this. The reason why I bring that up is because that means you have to do even more of a due diligence throughout the class and really target those guys who have those, those check boxes that you prioritize in a recruit. And if they check all of those boxes, then yes, it might not be a guy who's for everybody who's ranked 123rd in the country, but you see in them what will work for your program, and they'll come in, and if they have an understanding of like, hey, this is a developmental role, we'll try to get you in here, as much as we can as a freshman, but you're going to be taking bigger steps as sophomore, junior. Like, I'm hoping that eventually over time, over the next few years, that college basketball becomes more of that, of like, hey, we are bringing a guy in that's going to be developed, rather than having the, like a Jalyn Collingwood who is ranked 150th overall. Like, now Jalyn, the approach of, you could come in here, play all your cards right, and who knows? Like, who knows? But we also have to plan for you being here for a few years, and here's our developmental plan for you. And I just think that in past recruiting cycles, it has been top 1 through 150 believe that they're just a one and done, and that's not because I honestly think too the transfer portal is what changed that, because
the opportunity is just not there to show that for that many guys either. Like,
and college coaches can be very particular on who they want to recruit, because I'm not messing with a guy from high school who is iffy. I'll just go get a transfer portal guy who is more established. And I think on both ends, the players, their representations, and the colleges have become a lot more precise in their process, whether it be the evaluation process, how much they invest in them and coming on campus, so on and so forth. That, you know, now if Buzz could go get 3 guys in the top 30, you're telling me that he's not going to? Of course.
Yeah.
But like between everything that's factored in, everything, which we would be on here for another hour, but like just to throw in just the rev share in one sense is it's just not as realistic anymore, again, for a place like Maryland. And I'm not saying that they can't go kill it in the portal.
Mm-hmm.
And as we've seen, teams will flip year by year, and they'll go from missing the tournament next year to being in the Final Four the next, just because of the cast of players. So again, I know I didn't really directly answer that question, but I just think that going forward, they are going to be a lot more precise on, hey, we understand this kid might not be a headliner that's going to be, you know, broken by everyone in every publication in America, but he's what we need and he's who we need. And you go from there.
These Power 5 teams, I think we're seeing the second-year bump for a transfer make a real difference. Like you look at the Florida guys, other than Elijah Martin last year, like they were dudes who had been there for at least a year when they came in, and they really popped in that second year. Like that's, I think, the recipe for a lot of these teams, because they want older players, but they also don't want to re-recruit an entire brand new roster of senior turnovers every single year. So that if I'm bringing in a really good proven college player as a junior to now play 2 seasons, that's even less opportunity for a bunch of these young kids too, I think.
And I think that's the aspect of the game that's getting lost in translation with all this stuff that we're going through is continuity.
Yeah,
sounds cliche,
right.
But like, you know, when I've talked to people who have, you know, been to Maryland practice, you know, and I ask them, you know, and this isn't so much players, because players are going to give me a completely different answer than whether it be other scouts or high level high school coaches in the area or anything like that. And, you know, you ask them, they're like, well, who's standing out? Like, well, honestly, all the guys that he brought from Texas A&M. And it's like, well, because they know what to expect, and they know where their spots are going to come. So like, yeah, you'll have the first year transfer have moments, and they hope will hit the ground running. But as you said, Matt, like it's with anything in life, it's all about continuity, familiarity, and then
you gotta get comfortable too.
Yeah, and I think the guys who they're recruiting, in, you know, like an Austin Brown. And Austin Brown is a kid who, you know, I think is going to stick around and eventually be a really good piece and a really productive piece of the rotation for years to come for Buzz, as he continues to add on to his game. But he brings important aspects, size and shooting. And that's something that's going to get him on the court probably sooner than a lot of people would notice when you look at him and say, oh, well, he's a, you know, number 87 overall. What are we doing? It's like, all right, first of all, relax. Like we weren't exactly hitting grand slams. You know, Maryland wasn't hitting grand slams here for years. But yeah,
these guys that are leading the transfer classes are not guys that were top 15 recruits, right? Like the most expensive guy in the portal this year was Yaxel Lenenberg, and I don't remember where he was ranked coming out of high school, but I promise you it wasn't top 50 going to UAB. So that can change really quickly too.
Everything can change, man.
Maccabee 2106 wants to know, is Corey Dixon trending to be a high major guy or looking more like a mid-major guy? I think really want to know if we can get the Dixon, Blake, Obinna Ekezie trio on campus here together.
That would be interesting. Yeah, I mean, I think over the last year, Corey has really improved in a lot of different areas of his game. I think what he does, how he gets to his spots, how he gets to, you know, the way that he operates, his sense of pace and poise, his vision, little instinctual things, they all scream like high major ceiling. The tools that a guard needs to, or I would say like the intangibles that they need, he has, which is great. Now it's just like getting everything else polished in order to be like, okay, no brainer, kid's a high major. When are these teams going to start filing in? Now, I do think that there are a few teams that saw him in June
Okay.
Really liked what they saw. And, whether or not this helps benefit Maryland. Now, if he becomes good enough, it'll benefit Maryland. But they just all kind of have the thought like, well, all right, he's just going to go to Maryland, right? And that's kind of it. Now, I'm talking to Juan. They're completely open, man. Like, of course, Maryland has a place in his heart, right? Like that they would be the favorite no matter what. But it's not like Juan's just going to say, hey, we went and visited Maryland. We saw their presentation. I don't really think you fit what they do, but we're going to go there anyway. Like, they're much smarter than that. So, but I it's going to be, I would say, to answer the question, I need until January, February to really give a more confident answer. He fits really well next to Darius Bivens there at O'Connell. I think those guys are going to complement each other extremely well.
I just added a really good international big. I think I saw too. Maybe he's Turkish.
Yes.
Somebody.
Yes. Yep. And
that's a good team.
It's a good team. And, just like with anything, I'm very anxious to see the big that they just got in terms of how it translates. Sure. We will see. But, yes, he's accomplished, overseas where he was competing for sure. And playing with it, like I said, playing with a guard like Darius Bivens, he's going to make your life a lot easier no matter who you are. But with Corey, man, like, everything is very fluid and polished. And, Juan, when he's in the stands, it's like you definitely know he's there.
Sure.
But he's never yelling at Corey about scoring. It's always like, if he's in the right spot, as a weak side defender, or stop trying to play cool, or, do this as a leader. Like, it's all the good things that Corey needs, in my opinion. The good things that Corey needs is what he is, hollering about during the games. So the makeup is there. I think it would be if he can get maybe like another inch taller, that helps him. But I mean, he's already, really nearing 6'3", so he's got good size already. Sure. It's just being consistent. Starting this year, you would hope to see some stretches of him really like rising as an alpha next to Darius, and then next year him taking over the spot for Darius. Okay, we can plug you in right there, and it's going to be just fine. So I wouldn't stamp it 100% no brainer at this point, but I would say he's trending.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, just having the option of that, being something that could come together would be cool to see. Maccabee 2106 had a couple other questions, and you mostly answered them. The last one, though, is any updates on the 28 local kids post their visit? Wanted to know about Nash Avery, Xavier Skipworth, and Braxton Bogard. And you were the guy who put me on to Bogard, Colby, as I probably mentioned on here before, but he was probably the young dude I enjoyed watching most last year. Like, just he would be like a day one take for me, and skilled enough to do some perimeter things, but I could see him like really fitting with what Buzz wants to do too, of like a mobile big who will run the floor really hard, crash the glass, can block some shots. Like, I'm really excited to watch this Spalding team play this year. Yeah, no, they're gonna be really fun. I think Braxton, man, I mean, again, because if the people who know me know, like, I just fall in love with the bigs who just have a motor. You can be as skilled as you want. I thought he was senior because he was playing like a grown-ass man already, and he was 13. Yep. You can fly through the air. You can do whatever it takes. Like, the story that I would have about Nash. So he had a game against – I'll leave the team out of it, but people are going to connect the dots. But he had a game where I probably – it was the most dominant showing as a freshman that I've seen in the BCL, MIAA since I started this stuff. Wow. And I don't know what he finished with, man. It was like probably like close to 30, 32 and like 15 or 32 and 14 or whatever. They win a game in overtime, and the coach called me afterwards, and is not a guy who does this often, but was just like, yo, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do. He's like, the last kid that I didn't know what to do with was Justin Edwards at Emotep when he was at Emotep. But it speaks to Braxton's mood, and that was when Justin Edwards was a senior. Mm-hmm. So, like, when you compare him and Nash is much more of the like, oh, this kid has like pro potential, no doubt, because he can do a lot of things that just pop off the screen. Mm-hmm. But, Nash might finish with
11-5. Braxton might have 17, 12, 3 blocks, and like just does it methodically. Great size. He's starting to show a lot more comfort just to shoot off the catch from 3 as he's trailing from the fast break or picking pops, whatnot. But he plays within himself and doesn't try to do anything outside of his skill set. That's what I like most about him. I think that he is a name that's going to be coveted in the class. There's just a really lack of bigs in the DMV here for the coming classes. I would say like high level bigs.
He might be one of like the best big this year coming in as a sophomore, honestly.
Yeah.
Like
oh yeah. No, I wouldn't doubt that. I'm just trying to, there's, of course, you got Sinan Huan at Georgetown Prep. Like there's some names that you can make a case for, but never, I wouldn't say never. It's not often where you go, hey, this sophomore might be the best one in his position in this area. Like it's just you don't say that often. So, but I said, Nash was obviously on campus. I think he had a great time. He learned a lot, and just getting to know the staff more. Obviously, his brother goes to school, so like there's that familiarity with
on the football team for people that aren't football fans listening to this. So I think that's a good sign for us.
Yep. So very much a familiarity with it. But it's obviously I don't even want, I'm not going to make any sort of feel for like what teams to watch with these kids because it's way too early.
Sure.
But him and Xavier both really enjoyed it. I don't think Braxton had been on campus yet. He probably will here soon.
But you think they do have interest there?
Yes. Okay. Yes, for sure. I mean, I think he's if Braxton, I would say where Braxton needs to get to really unlock another level of his, not only his game, but his like recruitment, which would probably then cause like big heavy hitters to come in. It's just like his vertical pop. Now he can finish on you, he can punch on you, but like just like that scary vertical pop that maybe Nash has, or these other guys have. He's just not quite there yet. But again, we know with Buzz, he's not necessarily looking for the most athletic dude in the gym. He just wants a guy who wants it the most. But going back to Xavier Skipworth from Bullis, just got a recent another offer, a recent offer from USC. I feel like, and this isn't just connecting the Bullis dots with Adrian Stevens, but like he just really rubs me as a Marquette kid.
Gotcha.
Now again, like there's going to be a lot of schools vying for Xavier because of how polished he is and how mature he is, both as a player and as just a person. And a lot of the things that he does and brings to the floor are very translatable to a high level. But with that high character, dog type mentality, that fits Shaka Smart. It also fits Buzz Williams. So he is going to be one of the premier names in the DMV that fit that mold. And where I say is like, Maryland fans, be patient. If you really want that local prioritized recruitment, he is going to be a guy. That 28 class is going to be a class where like give them room to breathe until 28. I would say that. Once that 28 class comes, and if they're in a good spot with a few local kids, that's where we'll really be able to get a feel of, okay, these dudes are about it.
Getting them in early and starting that relationship now and showing them you value them by getting them on campus quick, I think is a great sign. I actually played pickup a couple nights ago, and a few kids that went to Bullis filled in. They were nice enough to come run with the old guys for a little bit, and they were like, "Oh, we've all played with Xavier for years. Like he's incredible." I'm like, "Okay, I'm excited to see him," because I saw them play a couple times last year just because Adrian Stevens is one of my favorite guys locally, and he didn't do a whole lot yet most of the time because they just didn't really, they had an elite big and an elite guard. Like they weren't asking much from him, but you could just see enough where I was like, oh, okay. Like,
I mean, to look at that lineup, and there's 4 seniors and 1 freshman.
Yeah.
Like, and he's the freshman, and they win they win their conference. They win the private school state championship. and come back in redemption style in terms of, they lost the previous year in the championship game against DeMatha, come back against a really hot Clinton Grace team. They take care of business there. And Xavier was outstanding in that game. I mean, Eric Ribey eventually took over, but in terms of the little things to put them in a position to really have a stranglehold in that game, it was Xavier, man. He's just really fun to watch, and he's even more refreshing to talk to. And I think, like, when you're watching his game, the way that he gets to spots and, again, just does things, it's a very refreshing type of game. Like, oh, okay, this kid's skill set is based off fundamentals. Then you talk to him. And then you're like, oh, and it's also refreshing to have a conversation with you, and he'll bring things up, and he'll, what I mean? It's just, he's on a different wavelength. And I think that's why, as these colleges become more precise with who they recruit, both on and off the floor, Xavier is the type of guy that, now I'm not sure where he'll end up in the debut of the rankings, but say if he ends up being again, just say for conversation, top, whether he's in like the 50s or the 40s or whatnot, I think he'll be better than that. Yeah. But you might see the recruitment like, oh my God, like, why is he getting, these big brands on him? Because he offers everything.
They'll be smart and ahead of the curve there on those kinds of things.
Yep.
Yeah, makes sense. All right, Colby, I'll get you out of here on this. Just maybe one name we haven't mentioned so far that's kind of off the radar from like a reporting perspective so far, that like you could see them trying to get in on. Like, don't talk about Sinan Huan much. Like, is that a guy you could see him making a push for, or any of those kind of names?
I don't see them. I know you just brought that up for the sake of conversation, but he is a name that probably after this podcast, people are like, hey, you brought up Sinan Huan as the best big. Like, why aren't we going after him? Just doesn't fit the style. Just doesn't fit the style. I think Sinan will have his number of suitors that he can go to, but I just don't think in terms of what they prioritize with their, I mean, you look at, I know it's two different stages of development, but Sinan Huan and Pharrell Payne, two different dudes. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Two different styles, bring two different mindsets. And Sinan in the right system is going to be extremely dangerous because, again, he's another kid who's just scratching the surface. The couple names that I'm watching for during these visits, one is going to be Trey Beamer to see where they sit with him after he gets off campus. And then the other one is Adama Tambedou. And if I butchered that pronunciation, I'm sorry. But Adama is a guy who not many people are talking about, ranked number 90th in the country. I know Adam Finkelstein just did a great, when he's continuing his scouting write-ups, and he just got to the Pro 16 forwards. Okay. He's just an animal. I would urge everyone to go to YouTube, search Adama Tambedou, watch his Pro 16 highlights. I think there's a video on there from like maybe sessions 1, 2, and 3. And if you don't watch the first 50 seconds of that and like, I'm all in, hey, you're not going to like this Maryland team going forward, I don't think.
Right.
Because
that is buzzball for sure.
Yes. He's undersized. He's 6'7", undersized big, but he's athletic. He's all over the floor. He's a dog. And then even in those highlights and little spurts, because obviously you're not going to see a ton of these, but like defensively, he just uses his lower body and his leverage so effectively against other bigs. He does not move when they put their shoulder down and try to, get some position in the post or bully him to the rim. It's honestly really fun to watch. So, not much of a guy who's going to be on the ball skill-wise type thing at this point, but in the makeup and the approach and the non-negotiables that you need to have as an undersized big in a buzz system, I think he checks all the boxes. In terms of where his recruitment stands, I think he just has 2 official visits. I could be wrong on this. 2 official visits set up. Obviously, he'll be at Maryland next weekend, followed up by Texas State. We were speaking before the pod, Matt, that Texas State is a program moving to the Pac-12.
It's a sleeper.
They have some, they're going to have funds. They have a massive campus with a massive amount of students that if, a kid is looking just for the college environment, might be there for him. So, and then maybe, they pitch to him, hey, you can come in here and be one of our guys right away. And if Adama wants that, might be a good spot for him. We'll see how long that recruitment, really extends, but considering those are the 2 visits that I know of right now, and they're back-to-back weekends, I want to see after Texas State where he sits.
Mm-hmm.
And I plan on catching up with him after the Maryland visit. I'll be able to get, a little bit of a vibe from him. But he's just a guy, man, I would really like to, for people to go watch. There's another name that's coming up on campus next weekend, Asher Elson, who a lot of people would look at from a prototypical standpoint of 6'10", extremely long, bouncy. You might say maybe down the road could fit the picture of a Pharrell Payne. I don't think he brings that hard hammer type of approach that Pharrell does. However, I see Asher fitting in really well with a Syracuse type of.
Yeah, they'll use the toolsy skill stuff kind of.
Yeah. I mean, Syracuse like a Donnie Freeman. I'm not. I don't know if he's really on the level of a Donnie Freeman yet, but just in terms of the physical makeup and what he can bring, he is going to officially visit Maryland, and he's got one already planned to Syracuse as well, and that's late. I think that's later in October. So he might just wait it out, maybe close the deal there. We'll see. But Adama Tambedou, please go watch some YouTube highlights for your afternoon to be entertained.
I apologize for doing this in the last second. I told you the last name, but one more I can't get out of here without mentioning him because I just totally blanked on this, and you just reported on it on Inside Maryland Sports or InsideMDSports.com. Everybody go there, check it out. I loved watching Eddie House, especially young Eddie House, just get buckets up, with sort of no conscience some of the time. So his son, Kaden House, top 35 recruit in the class of 2026, has scheduled an official visit on the 13th of September, coming in with Baba. That would be a hell of a recruiting pull, is to lock down both guys together. Colby, what can you kind of quickly tell folks about Kaden House?
Really improved over the past year. I know I said that about a couple of guys, but especially with Kaden, he was playing on the EYBL circuit at one point this year, this spring and summer. He switched over to the Pro 16 circuit, where while it was maybe a step down in competition, it was actually a boost in role and, whatnot for Kaden. Play with the ball more, shoulder more of the responsibility as a playmaker to make these guys around who maybe aren't on the same level as him, but make them better in that sense. And just being more game-like scenarios where he can actually work on his processing ability. And I think it helped him in a great way. And I think even it carried over when, playing in the June Scholastic Live period, and he kind of doubled down on all those things. So, in terms from a developmental standpoint, he's there. You got to love, again, another father with an NBA background and kind of understands, obviously he's going to allow his kid to be coached hard because he knows what it takes. Boston Celtics, NBA champion, played for the Heat. Like, this guy's been in culture throughout his career. What I will say is when I was talking with Kaden, it definitely seemed like Maryland was the most active team with him in terms of who he hears from. With a consistent basis, Maryland had kind of, separated themselves a little bit. There is a tie with TCU, where there's a staffer who at one point helped, coached Eddie at one of his times. I'm pretty sure maybe it was back when he was in college at Arizona State. And, that connection alone could really make things clear in terms of hey, you did me well when you coached me. I have faith that you're gonna do my son right and while pushing him. So TCU is the one to watch out for. Vanderbilt is one that could make things interesting. Kind of seemed like Kaden had some interest in maybe playing in the SEC, which who wouldn't? That's the highest level that you're gonna find at this point. Vanderbilt's got some guards on their radar that they're trying to attract, but they're also trying to get their recruiting class wrapped up here sooner rather than later. And they're going to have the willingness to possibly. I don't know where Vanderbilt stands with Kaden, but if he's somebody that emerges as a priority for them, they're more than willing to get in a little bit of a bidding war if that's their guy. So we'll see. We have a lot that, Maryland has a lot of guards that they're looking at and prioritizing at this point. We'll see where the dust settles. But Kaden is definitely a name to watch out for. That's a huge weekend in itself, man. With Baba, Trey Beamer, like we're gonna figure out a lot during that weekend because all three of these guys have a chance.
And the first place you can get updates on it, everybody, InsideMDSports.com. Go check it out. Colby does an amazing job there. The whole team does, but I literally just refresh every morning looking for a recruiting update. So I appreciate all the good work. Keep them coming. Anything else, Cole, you want to plug or shout out you got coming up, or where can people find you? Any of the handles, that sort of thing?
No, not necessarily, man. Just continuing to try to pick up my coverage here on as the recruiting stuff ramps up. Obviously as the portal cycle can, I would say, begins this year, I think fans can expect a little bit of an uptick in that coverage here on IMS, and maybe hop on some more podcasts more often with you, Matt, especially as things heat up here, and just appreciate the subscribers on the message board shooting questions. Again, we might be doing this a little bit more consistently here moving forward, and I just enjoy it, and it's going to be really fun to watch these next 3 to 4 weeks to see where everything settles.
I'm just excited about the visits. I'm not usually the get excited about visits guy, but I got a feeling, like you kind of said at the beginning, like Buzz might pull one of these off here, and I just want to see who it is at this point. So
the rate, I mean, I would have to go back and see exactly how many, but again, when they got the job and then they moved in and started having portal visitors, like a lot of those weren't made crazy public either.
Yeah.
It was just like, hey, they got another commitment. How did that happen? Well, he was on campus yesterday. And like, that was a common theme.
It was sneaky.
And I know when we were on last time, Matt, I kept saying this, but like Maryland was not on Darius Adams' radar at all. And to just go and scoop him up I think it's a huge feat. And I think where there's a lot of these other prospects that are looking at these, prestigious programs, or ones that maybe like, oh my gosh, Maryland's recruiting me. Not a lot of other big schools are. They're going to make them feel like, hey, this is the place for you. I don't believe, and I had caught up with Austin Brown a few times before he visited. I don't know if it was on his radar to say, I'm going to commit when I go on my visit there this summer. You don't see many summer commitments after, after a visit. And so between all these portal visitors, between Darius Adams, eventually someone's going to have to say no. But until then, we'll wait and see. But it's there's definitely some excitement, right? Because, maybe in years past, you just think, oh, here we go. We're going through the motions. I don't think we're going through the motions right now. I think they're being very precise and efficient with their attack.
I love it. All right, everybody. I normally say fear the podcast at the end, but honestly, other teams fear Buzz Williams and his staff. That's really the message here. Rate, review, subscribe, all good stuff. We appreciate you guys, and we will be back with more episodes here soon.